So look at the ADHD symptoms is the other piece, and then relation to others. So like there's sort of these 6 things. She's like your awareness, your attention, your emotional voice, your body engagement, your ADHD symptoms, and your relation to others change as you are in these different places, let's say. So what does it say about ADHD symptoms for the 5th place?
You're emotionally volatile and you're overly sensitive and oppositional.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that's where I'm at right now, Michelle?
I don't know. I just was wondering. It could be that you're just a little bit irritable and frustrated, which would be at level 4. So
I mean,
but then and then think about this for your relation to others.
Yeah,
So
that you're very clingy or you're very distant and you're critical of others. I'm sorry, Tamara. You project frustration on others.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Michelle's like, I'm just waiting for you to read. Just continue, Megan. Oh my gosh, I'm so red right now.
Oh my gosh.
Bright red.
Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to the Spicy Brain podcast, where we navigate neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and
radical acceptance. High kick.
So welcome if you're new to us. We're so happy to have you join us for the first time. You found us, the spicy brains of ours, where we focus a bit on ADHD right now specifically. Yep. And for those of you who are returning, you know who you are, and we love all of you so much. We cannot thank you all enough for listening because it gives us such good feedback. We get so much feedback from you all. Yep. It makes us keep being curious about, Megan's spicy brain as well as mine. So like we find out all about our spiciness in this podcast. Okay, so usually we start off spicy adjacent. Yeah. we sometimes we like start off with a story. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, then we kind of dig into something specifically in that brain of yours or mine. And then we try to look at strategies. And we'll be honest, like we're not ADHD
professionals.
Experts. No. So we're not guaranteeing you a strategy. All right. Yeah. So don't get on us if we don't give you, but we're going to try. We're going to try. So we've been we kind of go into a book usually. So we are right now looking at Your Brain Is Not Broken by
Tamara Rosier, PhD, which is impressive. Like she's ADHD and she got a PhD. So good for her.
Oh yeah. Like tons of people who are brilliant.
It's true.
Are ADHD, right? That's what's so crazy about all of it is that it's the same thing. What did one of the kids tell you one time? Like the same thing that made you so weird is what made you so cool
the
now.
The thing that made you so weird in grade school is what makes you cool now. I'm like, okay, thanks. I know her name. I'm thinking about it right now. I'm not going to say it out loud, but like she has no idea who she is, probably.
I'm so sorry I brought that up actually, but I just feel like that's sort of the life of people I know. I have so many good friends who are ADHD, and I don't know if that's just because that was like my family structure.
I mean, we trained
and
you,
that's
Michelle.
what I feel comfortable with. Yeah.
We trained you, and like, and you're a safe person now. So like, people who are ADHD are like, oh, thank God, you're safe.
Yeah, and it doesn't bother me, right? Like that's you were just asking me to do something and you're like, I'm so sorry to ask you to do this. I was like, you do realize same things that bother you don't bother me. And you're like, no. Oh, that's so great.
How do they not bother you and just drive your ear hole crazy?
It's so true. It's so true. So, okay, we've been talking kind of going back and forth between these 2 specific chapters in this book. And some of it was sort of these patterns that we get into. And we talked about that the last episode, which was really kind of cool for me too, because I figured out there was a pattern I was in. And I don't know. I wonder if some of these patterns, there was sort of the red, blue, like the red blue slide, and if you go back and listen to it from the last one, you'll get it. But there's this grid that she sort of talks about having green tasks, which are the things that kind of bring you joy and really ground you, and the red tasks are like really anxiety producing. Oftentimes you're living off your adrenal glands, and it's can actually be a really unhealthy place to live long term. And so the next chapter is all about this emotional health ladder. And we talked about this before, but I wanted to come back to it because I actually have been having to listen to her chapters, because I usually do everything with the audiobook. And I had to really listen to it. And then I realized I needed to put it into kind of a visual grid for both of us because it's so dense. Like
Very
she's
dense.
got such great information, but it's very dense and it's kind of hard to get through it.
Yeah.
For me, sometimes when I'm just listening to it, sure. I think if I probably bought the book and just, got the physical copy, it might have been easier. But anyway, she talks about going through these rungs, and it's connected to the grid. Like she does connect it to this idea of having different tasks along the way that don't emotionally tax you. But this is a bigger picture kind of a thing, and that you might be going up and down these rungs. So we'll talk about the rungs again here in just a moment. I sent you a visual, Meg, because I know that helps you. Do you have that up?
I do.
Okay. So do you want to take us through what you see from the levels really quick? Can you just walk through them? Can you read my writing?
Yes.
I know
Michelle,
you had to major in Michelle.
I spent the last, multiple decades majoring in Michelle's handwriting. I have a master's in it, and soon I will have my PhD.
Yes, you will. So this is what happens when you have a dyslexic connected to somebody with ADHD. They have to hyper awareness of your lack of penmanship. But anyway, okay, so
it looks like the first rung is present and calm. You are quiet, and your mind and your
you're in touch with the now.
Oh, my. Okay. It's like, and your tush, your mind and your tush are.
You're connected to your butt.
You're connected to from your mind to your butt. Okay, I have an understanding now. Okay. So it's quiet. Okay. Your mind and you're mindful and you're in touch. Oh, you're quiet. You have a quiet mind and you're in touch with the new. Look at
now.
That. Oh,
the now. You're failing so hard on your reading of Michelle's handwriting.
Oh man, I guess I gotta go back to. I guess I didn't get my master's. I'm in I'm just trying to get my bachelor's right now. Okay, I think I'm starting to understand. Okay, okay. So for those of you who are auditory, number 1 is to be present and calm, where you have a quiet mind and you're in touch with the now.
Mm-hmm.
How did I do?
Good job. Very good. Should I do number 2?
No, let's see. I mean, it's kind of a fun game.
Okay.
Like, can I get it?
Okay.
Okay. Number 2 is you're attending to and you're responsive to most significant tasks without becoming overwhelmed. And then the last part, about 100 milligrams of periods of being present. Long periods of being present.
This is such a fun game.
This is such a fun game, you guys.
Sorry for driving everybody else crazy. So 1 is you're present and calm. Secondly, you're attending to things. So you can do the tasks you need to get done, and you're present for long periods of time. Maybe not all the time. Right?
Yeah.
But
okay. Number 3, you are on autopilot. So you're not consciously controlling your thoughts and your abilities and behaviors. You feel productive, but you may not be efficient. I was getting there.
Yeah,
you may not be efficient. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where she says, most people are most of the time.
Yeah.
Think about driving to work or something, right? And you're on autopilot. You're not really paying attention to the road at some point. You're just doing the thing. And that's pretty common, in life. So she's that's kind of where she starts the chapter is in autopilot.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4 is survival. So you're responsive to the greatest perceived threats. Your emotions start to take over. You're in fight, flight, or freeze. Your self-protective response to environment. And
so whichever one you normally do, if you're a fight person or you're a flight or you're a freeze, you're going to be kind of stuck in that mode.
And you lose the ability to make reasonable choices and become fixated on tactic. We have chosen fixate on mistake.
So it's like you get fixated in the freeze or you get fixated in the flight, and you tend to get fixated on your mistakes at this point. So like her example was she was supposed to be meeting with clients and she realized she was missing a Zoom meeting, and then she couldn't quite let herself, like her friend was like, it's okay, like we're good, and it was actually for this book. Like she was talking about, like, she had her clients coming and she was getting to talk about the emotional health ladder.
Yeah.
And she freaked out because she said that she missed the meeting was about the emotional health ladder and she had forgotten to reschedule it.
Oh my gosh.
And she started to get completely fixated on this mistake she had made, and she started noticing her body awareness of like what was happening with her body at that point. And so her friend was like, hey, you're kind of like going down the rungs, you're now in survival, or you might be getting down to the fifth level. You need to like try to figure out what needs to happen to shift that out. And one of the nice things she said was that it was really helpful that she had a friend who understood. Like she was working with a partner who understood that that this could happen to her, and that this was okay. But okay, so that's number 4, is that you're in sort of survival mode, and you're kind of, you get fixated on mistakes and you're getting fixated into your fight, flight, or freeze.
And I think I do actually have an example of that this week. So remind me, Michelle. Okay. 5 is delusional. You're out of touch with reality. You're uncomfortable, and you're unreasonable and willing to destroy others or ourselves. Your mind obsesses, completely takes over, like your obsessions and your mind completely take over our lives, and others may not see how we are feeling, but we are aware of it. Oh yeah, others may not see how we're feeling, but they're aware something's wrong. Is that what it is?
No, like people might not even know at all, like in your life, because of the masking.
Oh yeah.
Because people with ADHD become so good at masking that you might be like in this complete out of touch moment, meaning like, I don't think it's like you're hearing, it is kind of like you're hearing voices in a way, because she'll talk about this a little bit more, but your emotional voice, if you go to the right on that, your emotional voice is like clanging.
You're fatigued, but it keeps screaming
commands. Like it's still yelling at you. Like you're at the point where like, you're like, it's been yelling at you in survival mode, but then now it's like think of like a hoarse drill sergeant. You know what I mean? It's like screaming at you, but it's like losing its voice because it's been yelling so long.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Intense emotions prevail in all situations.
Yeah.
And then fear and depression and anxiety equals exhaustion.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it's like a place where I think the difference between 4 and 5, like survival, is that you're having like fear and anxiety. I think what changes when you get into this like 5th rung is that depression has set in. And like just that, that exhaustion. I mean, I've had that with depression. You just have that like pure exhaustion, and you still have this clanging voice in your head kind of yelling at you.
Yeah.
For someone who's ADHD. Like, so that to me was like, gosh, I felt depressed before, but I've never had that like yelling thing in my head that she's talking about. And I was like, oh my God, that would be awful. Like you're already feeling so tired from everything. And then you still have this drill sergeant who just won't shut up.
Yeah. It's interesting because like it's true. I mean, like I've experienced this many times, and I what I find interesting is that I don't have a butler, but I have a drill sergeant.
Right.
Like I have something in my brain that will just scream at me. Whereas I think most people's butler probably screams at them. I don't know if they scream at you, but like,
I don't. Mine's like, oh, good morning, love.
Good morning,
How
Michelle.
are you doing? Would you like a cup of tea? You know what I mean? It's like so nice to me.
That's lovely. I'm so jealous.
Now I have the drill sergeant for sure. Like I do have that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just not, and that was a lot more for me around my PTSD.
Yeah. Can I just flap for a second so I can get this
Yeah.
out of my head and then we can move on?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, guys, and I'm reading this thing that Michelle has, obviously you've heard me read, but it's reminding me that today we were watching an episode of John Oliver last week tonight with John Oliver, and I turn on the subtitles for Brian every once in a while because like just the way speakers are now, like it's hard to hear like all the words sometimes, and I find myself like reading the words, and then I think, oh Megan, you don't need to read them, like just sit and watch. And like I've been having this internal struggle with myself about like reading the words and like how I'm not actually enjoying the visuals. But then I found myself today just thinking like maybe I need to read the words in order to help me enjoy the program more.
Because you are so visual.
Yeah. And that like if I see the words, like I actually understood more of what he was saying when I saw the words. Because like I was just looking at this like the reason I thought about this is because I was looking at the 5th rung and it's talking about how fear plus depression plus anxiety equals exhaustion. And being able to see it visually, just sort of the exhaustion just kind of stuck out stuck out to me.
You noticed it.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have noticed it if I was just listening. And so so there's a strategy for anyone who's visual. Turn on subtitles. Maybe that might help you. Even if you can hear it or understand it, maybe try it and let me know if you think, because I want to not stop beating myself up for turning on subtitles. I don't know. It's not beating myself up. It's just like, no, it's beating myself up. There's a drill sergeant.
Also too, like, for people without ADHD, get your hearing checked, get a baseline so you know. But I think with ADHD, it kind of goes to the top part of this grid. So I want you to go up to the top of it.
Okay.
And just like read the different words going across, because those are the things she's saying at these different levels. You have things you can observe in your body and in your mind to help you know what level you're at.
So you have like your awareness. And then your attention, you have your emotional voice, body engagement, you have the ADHD symptoms, and then the relation to others.
So when it looks at awareness, she talks about there's sort of like this radar that operates in the back of our minds, and it like continually scans the environment, both internally and externally. So it's like you've got your radar on, right? And it allows you to notice the things around you without having to exclusively focus on them.
Yeah.
And for people with ADHD, this awareness, as you go down the rungs, it's like it goes from, I'm able to pay attention. And then it's like, okay, I'm feeling good and I'm managing my life. And then in autopilot, like I have the ability to use the radar, but it's low. And then all of a sudden I'm in survival mode and I have a lack of awareness. I'm actually not able to do this, and I'm not able to make decisions completely instinctively anymore because I'm not noticing everything around me. And then by the time you're at level 5, like your awareness is like completely gone, right? And you're basically like making decisions just that could potentially be really destructive, right? So, for example, if you're like in level 5 and you're trying to drive as someone with ADHD, that could be really dangerous because you're not able to pay attention to all the stimulus around you.
There's been a few days where like I like to drive because I feel like having more control when I'm driving. But there's been a few days where like I've had to tell Brian, like, no, you have to drive home because I'm noticing, I'm like, wow, I am not paying attention. I am like, like we got to the place we got to, but like I really shouldn't have been driving. Yeah. And that's been interesting to like actually allow myself to say, okay, like you need to not drive and just ask for help. And then as I'm looking at this, when you were talking about survival mode and like how you aren't making decisions completely selectively. This is stupid. But like, you know how I have my socks that are all the same except they have right and left?
Yeah.
Okay. So guys, I make a little, for those of you who are new, I do this little game every day of like an ADHD forecast to figure out if I am going to have a good day, like a right kind of day, a right left kind of day. Like I try to pair them up and decide like what kind of a day I'm going to have. But what I've been noticing recently is that like, okay, so guys, I take the way I clean my socks now is I put them all in a mesh bag after I take them off. So that like when they're in the washing machine, they don't go all over the place and I can just pull out the bag and just dump them into my drawer. Love it.
Right.
Greatest thing for me. And then it also gives me the opportunity to like do my little, sorting my hat. Like what is it, Michelle? Like my picking my lotto numbers,
Yeah,
like,
you pick out 2 socks at random, and then sometimes it's left, and sometimes it's left, right, and because you want a left and a right. That's the thing.
You need a left and a right in order to get your day going.
Unless you have 2 left feet.
Correct. And then it's like,
but for you do have a right and a left, so
I do.
You want a right and a left. Yeah. Okay.
So the interesting part though was that this week I have been going to pull a sock, and then like I go to pull one and then I move over to another one. And I'm not going with my instinct. And so I move over to the next one and then I pick it up and it's a left. And I already have 2 lefts. And it's so, and what I kind of came to is that like, oh, if I don't listen, so then sorry. And then going back, then I go to the one that I was originally going to pick up and it's a right. And so I started realizing like, oh, if I don't listen to my instincts, like my initial instinct was all right on target and I didn't listen to it. I second guessed myself. And so if I don't listen to my instincts today, it's going to be a left kind of a day.
Yeah. And I think her point is that depending on what rung you're on in this emotional health ladder, you're able to listen to your instincts more or less.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's like, so it's pretty easy. Like on autopilot, it's not too hard for you to listen to your instincts.
Yeah. I just pick it up,
when you're in survival mode, it becomes harder. And then if you're in the final like rung on her chart, which is the delusional one, like it's almost impossible
to even get the socks. I'm like, oh, I can't even put them on.
Right. Yeah.
Michelle, are you at least proud of me that like I was aware enough to have a thought in my head?
I think it's amazing. And also, I think one of the things that's sort of interesting is that could be a future sort of signal for you too.
Yeah.
Like not to judge that you can't follow your instincts, but just to notice. And that's her whole thing is like, just notice where you're at, because starting to notice where you are on this emotional health ladder is kind of the first step of this, of just acknowledging, right? So I think that was cool. Like you acknowledge, you're like, oh, I'm not ready to drive today, right?
Yeah.
And then another one was like, oh, I'm not following my instincts. So you're not following your instincts. That's probably means you're not on autopilot anymore. You're maybe down in survival mode. And so now that might mean something, right? I don't know what it means yet, like what you do about it. So that's where the whole strategies thing I think is the next chapter. Sorry, people. But that idea that you're noticing it.
Well, I mean, noticing is a strategy. Like I think because you have to be able to notice what's going on before you can fix it. So in order to find a good strategy, you have to be able to first be aware of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And I can for sure say that
awareness is. Oh, go ahead.
I can for sure say I've been in survival mode for a little while now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, having your job whole life get uprooted is definitely part of it.
And it wasn't my fault this time.
That's so maddening.
So
like, dang it.
I know it wasn't. I didn't mean to. It wasn't even me.
I was saying that to Mom, actually. I was like, gosh, darn it, that kid cannot catch a break.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it feels like that sometimes. And then, and then other times you're like, but she's got all these amazing things, and maybe this is going to lead to something different and better. We don't know yet.
Can I just say I love that you called me a kid? Especially after today, guys. Oh my gosh. I was telling Michelle this earlier. But like, I've been like working out more and like trying to move my body, and And so like I'm noticing some changes, and I was like, yeah, okay, so great. Like I'm going to get in shape, so like so that for my 50s, like if I can get in shape by the time I'm 50, that'll be awesome. And then I was like totally when Harry met Sally, like, oh my God, I'm going to be 50 someday. Like it's not coming up anytime soon, but like it just hit me. I'm like, I'm going to go into my 50s soon. And I don't remember why I was saying this, but here we are.
Well, there's 7 years between us. So I'm 51.
Right.
So I'm not giving away your age, but people can do the math if they want to try.
Yeah.
And I think it's so cute when you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be 50. And I was like, 50s are awesome. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. It's so good. Okay. So awareness is one of the things to pay attention to. Can you go to the next couple?
Okay, so we're going to go back to attention, which is the ability to focus on a specific stimulus or stimuli.
So as you go down the ladder,
that like I couldn't even focus on like the word stimulus or stimuli. I was like,
yes.
Huh? Did you see my face, Michelle?
Yeah.
I totally had like a...
I was just letting that sink in for you. Like I wasn't going to say anything. I was just like, maybe she'll pay it. Does she have awareness to understand that her attention?
What I just said. No, I didn't. Well, the word stimulus and stimuli, just like I went down a rabbit hole of like, oh yeah, stimuli. Like with it, we don't have an S. Like I went down a whole rabbit hole.
And you're like, oh, that's Latin. That's amazing. So your attention, obviously, as you go down the rungs, becomes more difficult, like your ability to actually pay attention. And what I thought was sort of interesting, I thought in survival mode, she said, for people with ADHD, you tend to indulge yourself emotionally and physically, and you do whatever you feel like doing, even if it's not the healthiest option.
It's kind of like me saying, hey, can I flap real quickly because I have to get this out of my head, otherwise I won't be able to concentrate. Oh, man. I'm so in survival mode at the moment. It's true though. Like it is like this indulging yourselves like the emotionally and physically. Like I've been doing that this morning.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like she's saying you go up and down these rungs all the time.
This is why I have an issue with how she's calling delusional. Because, okay, like if you don't want me to, if it's like it's okay to be in these things and like you're just, you have to just notice it. Because she's basically doing the psychology thing, right? Of like, just notice where you're at. Like, don't judge it. Or like the Buddhist thing. Like, just don't judge it, But then, like, if you call me delusional, well, I'm going to sure judge myself. Because, like, that's a very loaded word.
But like, I think the idea that technically, like, you're not in touch with reality is important to know. Meaning, like, not to say...
How can you notice... I'm sorry. How can you notice that you are not in touch with reality and not judge yourself for it? Maybe I'm just not in a good place to be able to understand this just yet. I recognize that. If I'm in survival mode, maybe understanding this.
Well, I think the fact that you can't always control it is one thing, right? To notice, to be like, this is happening, but this is like, I said that to you the other night. I'm like, I think it's your ADHD talking. And we're going to talk about the emotional voice here in a minute. But her example was for delusional. I'm so angry all the time. Like I had to go to like this client she had had all these physical things. Their body was run down. They're very, and so like, I think you've worked really hard to not be in this state.
Yeah, this
right.
is like my
I think you might have
kid.
had. I think you might have had this experience and understand it really well. But you work really, really hard to not let yourself go down into this state anymore. And you have a bunch of things in place. You have a bunch of strategies that I would love for you to talk about. Actually, I don't know if you think of them as strategies, but in the way she said it. But you do work very hard on your mental health and your physical health to not allow yourself to get into this state for very long anymore. You do really, because...
And what's interesting, Michelle, is like this idea of like, so it says focus on basic survival to remain like on high alert, and you're looking for threats to your to your emotional safety. Like, I think that is exactly also the same thing for PTSD, which is,
Yes.
I'm going to say why they're saying, like, if you have PTSD or you are an adult and you haven't been diagnosed, they have to make sure that there's nothing else masquerading as ADHD first. Because, like, once you're in this delusional state, I still don't like that word, but like once you're in the delusional state, it could be a number of things at that point because it's gotten so bad. Or it's just like gone so unchecked.
Unchecked, yes. Unchecked this state. And again, I think delusional is a technical term, like a DSM kind of term.
I understand that, but like, wasn't like moron or like idiot or wasn't one of those like a technical term for a long time, and then we changed it?
Sure.
I think we should change it.
Yeah, I think we should. Anyway. But I think also, again, this is when your mind obsession is completely taking over, right? And so like you can't get out of it. And I'm going to give my example of, for me, and this is a PTSD thing, but my little like mouse situation, which I don't know if I talked about yet, but there was like a mouse living in the house and I named it Gilbert, and my friend Malia said I should name it Gunther because it was like needed to have a, like a more hefty name, but it's a tiny little mouse, right?
Yeah.
And so it was like living in my room, I figured out, but I didn't know it was. And it was like waking me up at night, but I didn't know it was. And it wasn't like on me or anything, but it was like near me, right?
Wasn't it living
in my box spring?
Yeah, like so you could hear it and you thought you were going crazy?
I did. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was going nuts. I was
Gilbert
like, I
was
just
gaslighting you.
Gilbert was so gaslighting me. So this mouse, though, I was like, oh my gosh, it was kind of driving me nuts, but it was like got obsessed with it. And then when we finally, so we caught the mouse, so thank goodness. Yay.
Yeah.
The mouse is caught. But I couldn't let it go. Right. And I remember I had to go like sleep in another room one night because I was just like, it was so in my head and I was so freaked out about it. And I think anyone who loves mice, I'm sorry if you love mice, but like for me, I don't mind one in a cage. I just didn't want one living under my bed. So, but I couldn't let it go. And I literally had to kind of like check out for that night.
I
know
remember,
what I mean? And I definitely drank more wine than I should have, and I had more ice cream than I should have, and I watched more HGTV than I should have, and all those things. No, but we talked
that night too, and I was like, "Can I just tell you all about this crazy stuff in my head?" And you're like, "Please, let me just distract myself,"
because I was so obsessive at that moment. And it was definitely a form of PTSD. It was something out of my control. It was something I found disgusting. And it was something I was actually like worried about my health, which I think is reasonable to be worried about your health with like mouse droppings that you figured out were there that you didn't know. But I didn't, but it to the extent like I couldn't until this last weekend. I had to like go and talk to, because, mom and I live together, and I had to go and tell her, I was like, I'm struggling with doing something very basic because I don't know how to start. I don't know what, and I don't usually feel like this, right? Like that's not my norm. So I was like, I don't know how to start because if I use a broom, like what are we going to do with the broom? Because now it's got the rodent stuff, whatever, right? Like I had all these reasons I couldn't start it, and I was leaving it much longer than I normally would have. So I think this idea of, I don't know if everyone can identify with this feeling that's listening, because if you don't have PTSD and you don't have ADHD, you might not really understand this. But for anyone who does have either of those, I think we all know that feeling of like you can't get yourself out of it as easily.
Yeah.
And maybe you bump up into survival enough, which I did, to say to her, but it took me a week or two. Yeah. And I was like, hey, by the way, I need help. And I need you to help me with this. And then she just literally just sat there and was like, well, maybe you should do this first. And then, of course I went immediately and did it and it was fine. And then I was fine. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Anyway,
your butler took a break.
Oh yeah. Like my butler was like handcuffed in a closet, like around this. Now, like my daily life was fine. I was able to cook. I was able to do, my normal stuff. But for this, it was definitely handcuffed.
That's interesting because like when I am in that state, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like I can't just cook or do basic stuff or clean or, go. It's all really, really hard for me.
Yeah, it's like take my mouse example, right? And just have it go across every task, every part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think the issue when somebody says delusional is it seems to me like it's your fault.
Yeah.
That you did this to yourself. And I don't like that piece of it either.
Well,
Because I definitely didn't do that part to myself, right? Like I didn't react consciously to what was happening in that way.
right. But like you had to do something in order to get out of it. And I think that like that's the part for me that really frustrates me with the whole DSM and how we catalog things as a disorder. And I don't know, it really upsets me actually. Like I felt myself like getting much lower because I wanted to talk about that before you talked about the mouse. And I was like, no, Megan, let her talk about the mouse. You know, we have to move on. But like it really, like, I think this is why a lot of people don't get, I could imagine that's why they don't get tested. And I remember feeling this way at first, like when, you know, I was in all this, like all this physical pain and they thought like maybe it was dystonia or it was like some other things. And then it was like, no, it's a cognitive behavioral disorder. And like the first time someone ever said that to me, I was just like, you. Like, this is not all in my head. This is not my fault. Because that's what we make it seem like these issues are our fault. And that there's something wrong with us, and that because that's how we look at all of these disorders. Like, there's something wrong with you, and I didn't want to believe it for the longest time. And I have friends and I have people I know and I love that have similar situations where I'm like, yeah, it's probably, you know, PTSD. It's probably some sort of a cognitive behavioral something.
Yeah, and
I can see they don't want to deal with it, and it's just, I think that's what's so frustrating about all of this is that like I don't like, I can understand that it is a clinical term, delusional. We have to find a better way to talk about it because I'm not delusional. Like I'm not like, I don't know, maybe it's media or society or something, but like when you think of someone who's delusional, you think of someone who's just bat crazy, who can't control anything and who is a burden on society. And there's all these other expectations that like, that they're wild and they're, you know, not smart and they're just absolute. And it's always a female, you know, or typically, or a feminine, you know, a femme. And I just like, it does make it feel like it's my fault. I think that's why I get so frustrated with it. Because I'm like, it's not my fault. My brain is not broken. It's just, it works differently. And so when you tell me that I'm going into the state and that I'm delusional, then you're telling me that I'm broken. But it's just a state that is like, it's I don't know, like, does it?
No, I think you're onto something. I mean, I think that there's this,
you can't tell me that your book is called Your Brain Is Not Broken, and then you're also telling me that I'm delusional, or I can go into a state of delusion. We have to find a better word. Tamara, I don't think you're listening, but if you do, like, let's find a better word, because the word delusional is too loaded. We need a better term.
Well, and this is why I wanted to make sure that I wrote down what she said about each of these sort of parts that you can kind of observe about yourself or someone can observe about you, which is, and we didn't get through all of them yet, so I'm going to just go back for a second and just say that.
What about masking? What about masking? Like,
okay.
That's the term, right? Like, you're not in survival mode. You're just like in a full-blown, you're in a mask. You're no longer acting as yourself because you're trying to act as somebody else. Like, it's not, I don't know. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's good. I don't know the answer to this. I just want to make sure that we read through each of the pieces and then maybe that masking is the right term. Okay. So there's awareness, attention. So like as you're going through, there's something called an emotional voice. And that's the thing that informs us about our emotional state. And at the lower levels, this voice is very loud and can be very directive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you're in whatever level 5 is that we want to call it, it's like a banging gong.
You're in drill sergeant land.
Yeah.
You're like
and at the
basic
upper
training.
levels, it's like quieter and acts more as a guide, and it's less directive, and it's like very friendly. Okay. Body engagement refers to what's happening to you physiologically. So I want you to go to level 5 and see like what that says, like how your body's reacting. What does it say?
Struggling with stress has drained or physical and emotional and mental resources. Oh, it has drained one's physical, emotional, and mental resources to the point where our body no longer has strength to fight stress. May feel situation is hopeless. Struggling with stress has drained our physical and emotional and mental resources to the point where our body no longer has strength to fight stress. You may feel like the situation is hopeless. See, I think like when I hear that, like it feels like a place. Like if I refer to these things as a place, like I'm thinking of like basic training, because like everybody, I just started working with the military kids and like listening to them talk about basic training. Like when they first got there, like this is how they felt. Like they felt like, you kind of feel like your situation is hopeless because you have a drill sergeant screaming at you and you don't have control over your physical, emotional, or mental resources to the point like where your body no longer has strength to fight the stress, right? So like they break you down in order to build you back up. And I've watched these kids like, tell me all these things about like how there was one girl who did like a 3-hour self-care routine every night. And she's like, I couldn't do it. Like, I can't do it. Like I can barely, like if I'm lucky, if I get maybe 10 or 20 minutes and that's not enough. Cause like I spend an hour just on my teeth and I'm like, how do you spend an hour on your teeth? It was fascinating. But like, if you're talking about like kind of me going to a separate place, then it doesn't feel like it's me. Right. Cause like, I don't feel like I'm, and I understand it's all the same thing, right? We're talking about semantics, but I do think that semantics matter.
I agree. So look at the ADHD symptoms is the other piece, and then relation to others. So like there's sort of these 6 things. She's like your awareness, your attention, your emotional voice, your body engagement, your ADHD symptoms, and your relation to others change as you are in these different places, let's say. So what does it say about ADHD symptoms for the 5th place?
You're emotionally volatile and you're overly sensitive and oppositional.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that's where I'm at right now, Michelle?
I don't know. I just was wondering. It could be that you're just a little bit irritable and frustrated, which would be at level 4. So
I mean,
but and then think about this for your relation to others.
Yeah, so that you're very clingy or you're very distant and you're critical of others. I'm sorry, Tamara. You project frustration on others.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Michelle's like, I'm just waiting for you to read. Just continue, Megan. Oh my gosh, I'm so red right now.
Oh my gosh.
Bright red.
I'm sorry. Well, I wasn't saying it for that purpose, although it did sound good for the podcast, but I wanted to write them down because the last time we talked about it, you did get fixated on delusional, and I don't disagree with you though.
Yeah.
Like I think that thinking about a different way to think about this, but when you talk about, okay, here's what you would be observing in yourself or what someone else would be observing in you, this state is not about being crazy. It's about being like you're at your depletion point. And to me, it's more about like how you're taking care of yourself. Your self-care at this point is out the window. We talked about that the last time. By the way, Ellen fully called me out and asked me had I actually had lunch outside of the office, and I was like,
really?
no, I haven't. So she's like making me put it on my calendar. She's so cute.
You know what? Good for her, because I did
Yeah.
talk to Brian a couple of nights about, let's think about all the good stuff we did today.
Yeah.
I actually did it, you guys.
You are awesome, and I failed.
A+ student.
You A+ student. Ed. But anyway, I was thinking
the relation to others for stage 4 is that you're self-centered and you're critical of others. I'm like, A+ student, Michelle. I'm like full on self-centered right now.
Well, but I mean, the whole idea is that any of us could be in any of these levels, right?
But we don't talk about that for normies. Like, I want the delusional state for a normie. And like,
but I have that. But I'm not normie because I guess I'm PTSD.
Yeah. And like, we don't talk about like normal people like are gonna, it's like level 5 for a normal person is the DSM. Like something in the DSM, right? It's like you are no longer in control would be my guess.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're totally fine until you're not. And then you're depressed. And then like depression is an actual like term that we use. You're in a state. And it just like so it makes me frustrated that like it feels like my like I always have this brain. And it's just whether or not like I can I keep seeing the normal brain and the normal, like whatever level 1 is, if you're calm and present and like, you're present and calm and you're responding to like whatever presents itself and like, you're so happy and like, and you have a normal brain. But then when you, as a normal person, if you go down to 5, now you're in a diagnosable state. Whereas for me, I'm always in a diagnosable state. Even if I'm present and calm, which I'm number 1, I'm still diagnosed and in a state.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me that like I'm in an even bigger state. Like, I don't know. I clearly have issues with this.
I'm going to just pose something to be curious about.
Okay.
So you actually rolled your eyes and now you're
biting my nails.
I'm not biting your nails, like whatever.
Fine. What? Okay, let's move on.
Okay,
I'm fine.
What?
What? My teenager Tallulah's coming out strong, you guys.
Tallulah is with us today. My curiosity around this is what this has to do, like how one might manage it, because I think you've done so many things to not let yourself go to the state where you're not attending to your loved ones in the same way. Like that's what I would say is like you've really made your relationships an important part of your life that they weren't before in the same way. Or you didn't know how to do it. And again, and not to say like it's a judgment, it's just an observation of like you pay more attention, right? Yeah. And you're doing this regularly and you did so much work to get there and to understand like what was PTSD and what wasn't and all of that. So to me, when I'm looking at this, it's like an awareness of where you're at so that you might need some more green tasks in your life, right? Yeah. Like you're going to need extra things that are life affirming and people are around you and surrounding you so that because you're in this moment of struggle. And I think anyone can relate to that. Right. But I think the piece that is, maybe it's a radical acceptance piece. I don't know. Has been for me with you, is that, yes, you can go to these places and yes, it is deeper for you. It is harder for you. It is a bigger proportional thing. And I mean, that isn't fair, but that is true. Like when you're in a state of survival or when you're in a state where you're feeling like your awareness and your decision making isn't your own in the same way that it normally is. And normal's the wrong word, but like where it can be. It has the ability to be. That can happen for you in a moment. Like it can happen for Josh in a moment. I've seen it happen where it just flips and it's like 1 minute you're in like attending to autopilot and the next minute it goes down to like you're thinking the worst the emotional voice is saying the worst things to you that anybody could possibly imagine being said to them.
Yeah, I always feel like you
the
don't
other
have to
day,
beat me up. You don't have to beat me up because I beat myself up worse.
Yeah. And the other day I had language with you to say, I think this is your ADHD voice talking. I didn't say it this way. I didn't say it's your emotional voice, but I was like, I think this is your ADHD talking, because you were saying like there was no way that we would be successful in this podcast, and there was no way for like you were saying some things that were really like hard to hear, but also like I knew wasn't real for like in that moment. And that's the part where it's like it's not real because I know you, and I know everything you've ever touched has only been more successful after you've been involved with it. And so that's the part where I feel like it was not real. That was not reality. But you weren't crazy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess like when it comes to not going to that place, I go to that place temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like because I was told from such a young age that who I was not okay, I think that's why you have like these comorbidities, right? I had ADHD, but then I also had PTSD. And so I had to deal with the PTSD before I could ever even come close to dealing with the ADHD. And I look at this like survival that we were just talking about, where it's like, you're self-centered when you're in survival mode. And I think like I had to feel like I was self-centered. I had to like just take care of me. And it always reminds me of like that one Thanksgiving where I had to not show up, even though I'm literally living across the street from you guys. Yeah. And I know you're having like, there was no physical barrier for me to be there. But like I had to not show up, and I know that was really hard for you. It was extremely hard for me, but I had to like, it was in that process of my life where like, I had to like set a boundary for myself, and it had nothing to do with you guys. And what I think was interesting is I remember that after that day, like, really working with my clinical team to like help me to build the boundaries that I needed. You came back to me. I don't know if it was like, I think it was a little bit afterwards, but you came back and said, so I came to you and said, I feel really terrible about this, and this is where I'm feeling. And then you came back and said, Megan, I love it when you're here, and when you, Megan, are present. And if Megan is not able to be present to the fullest, it's better to have you take care of yourself than to come and be miserable the entire time. Because I'm not listening to myself. And I think that there was a massive shift for me in that moment. And that's why I always remember it. And I started like being able to say, okay, well, sometimes like, it was never an option growing up. It's like, if you're not feeling well, like you still go to the families, because like it was important. And I do think it's important to like rally, but also I didn't know that I didn't know I had any ability to like say no. And I think a lot of that also comes from the black and white of being in the ADHD world. Like, so if you hear it once, like, okay, that's a rule, and it is now black and white, like that is the rule. And so it may not have even been said to me, but that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
So,
and that's so funny because she says when you're in survival, that's the actual term, your thinking tends to be in black and white at this stage.
Yeah.
And so it's like you were living in survival your whole life. Right. And so this idea of
I was living in delusional my entire life. I started living in survival during that time when I started to get help. But like I was full on living in delusional world. Like I still don't have a ton of memories. And like I even like in my like it's hard to remember my 20s and my 30s. Like there's I mean it's getting easier, but like I mean it wasn't until I got to grad school. I mean I had a complete lack of awareness in my behavior and in my decisions, and I had to go to graduate school in order to like even become aware of that. And that's what I always say. Like, I didn't go to grad school to become an actor. I went to grad school to learn myself. And that drove some of my teachers crazy because they're like, well, why aren't you like, because I just knew I needed to like develop an awareness of me. And it was like, that's when I think like that's when I just kind of started the basic like clawing out of this delusional state or whatever we're going to call it. Like, and then I lived in survival for like 2 decades. So I think for the first 2 decades of my life, I was in delusional. And then like the next 2 decades I've been in survival. And I feel like I'm just now kind of crawling into autopilot. Like on a macro level. I think there's always like important, like there's the macro and then the micro. And like there's a day-to-day life of like, yeah, you can on the micro level, like I can swing from the calm to delusional in like an instant. But like on a whole, I'm still
You're working
trying
on autopilot.
Yeah, and that was part of like what this job was supposed to be. It was going to help me get on autopilot.
Dang people. I think like this idea of awareness and knowing like what's happening to you physiologically as you're talking about this, it gives me a continued great empathy for like little Rosie, like little Megan and Tallulah, who are, the versions of yourself that you talk about then that you're so resilient that you did go ask for help, because my little, micro example, about the mouse is sort of silly, but at the same time, it's like, no, sometimes you need help and you need to tell people like, I'm not okay, you know? And I remember like right before, the pandemic happened, and it was like that fall, every fall for me is super intense because of the job I have. And I remember just thinking like, I don't like know if I'm okay right now. And I don't feel okay. Like I'm feeling like a little bit like I might need to go and get some help, and I remember you had gone and I thought it was so cool, all the work you had done. And I was like, maybe I need that, because I hadn't dealt with my PTSD at all. And I was having panic attacks and such. And, it was getting worse, and I realized like the pandemic, as awful as it was, for me was the first time that I had ever felt calm because there was no road noise. There was it was super peaceful outside, and there was nothing, for me, that was actually, I know for a lot of people that was awful, and I don't mean to bring up bad memories for people, but for me, it was the first time I had ever been able to listen to myself and to put boundaries around things and get all the things I needed to get done for me. And going back to work has been the hardest part for me because like like we were saying, the self-care piece for me is still really hard. So having those boundaries around like what it is I need for me is really difficult. And I feel like I think her point of this is that figuring those things out for yourself and having those be, at the macro level, like you're talking about, sort of these things that you have in place that you need to be careful can like what you've loaded. And I put it over to the left near autopilot description if you want to look at it, but you can load your plate too full and then autopilot can break down. And then your emotions flood your mind. And I think for someone with ADHD, this is the most important, is that because it's difficult to regulate emotions, that you have to be careful. Like, are you going to put yourself in a situation in Thanksgiving that's going to be overloading your plate, literally, I guess, but you know what I mean? Like literally overloading your plate emotionally.
Yeah.
To the point that you're now in this other state. And I talk about this with friends all the time is I really am careful of who I'm with and who I allow myself to be around. And I had to do this pretty early on. You know, there were people in our family that weren't safe for me to be around emotionally, right? It wasn't like a physical thing or something, but I wasn't a good mom to Josh. I wasn't able to stay present with him. When seeing certain people. So I had to really like make that distinction of like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to have this boundary because it's not good for me, because then I'm not good for the people I want to have relationships with and care for in my life. So, but that, you know, a lot of people had opinions about that, right? And people have opinions about, especially if you make changes. Oh my gosh, right? You're going to change something in your life. You know, everyone's going to have an opinion about it because people don't like change. Yeah. And they don't want you to change always, right? And they wouldn't say it that way, but it changes your interaction with them. And they have a certain expectation of how you normally used to interact, and now it's changing. But so I really like this idea of what you're saying, of that you like lived in this place. I don't like it because it's not fun, but I like this idea of like you did claw your way out of that. And so I can see why like it sort of seeming almost flippant to say delusional or something, right? That's another way that we need to talk about it. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder if when you said the word change, and how people don't like, I don't know if this is for everyone, maybe this is just me thing, maybe this is not ADHD, but I feel like I'm in a constant state of change. Like I'm always changing. And maybe that's why I was a bit more open to going to therapy and to doing all of that. But like as soon as you said that, I noticed it. And I do think that like my entire existence is pretty much constantly changing. But it also makes sense. Like if I'm going from one rung to the other, I am constantly changing. I can't help it. There's like some part of my brain that is firing that others don't have. And while it can totally be amazing, it also can be devastating. And, you know, it's like I remember very clearly, like in my 20s when I came up with like this character of Linda, and I thought like, oh, I shouldn't put it. I was like, I'm not going to put it on YouTube because like YouTube had just started. Had I put it on YouTube, oh my gosh, I'd probably be a totally different creator right now.
Yeah.
But my worry was, someone said like, well, you got to be careful about your IP, you know, your intellectual property, because someone could steal it if it's on YouTube. And I was like, oh my gosh. But then afterwards I was like, I have so many ideas. Like, fine, steal.
This is not going to be a problem.
Steal that one. Yeah. Cause like some people, they only have like one or two ideas. I cannot stop the ideas. And so now I'm just like, yeah, let's just do it. If you want to steal it, sure, steal it. I'll have another one and we'll figure it out. But yeah, the change is a very interesting question.
Well, I think it's not so much that you're not changing, but it's how you're changing your relationship with other people, right? It's like you made a change. I'm not going to come to dinners when I'm not able. That's a change, right? You would not have that boundary before, but it's an important one for you. It's an important one for you. And it's an important one for you on this health ladder, because the emotional health ladder, because, you know, if you just come and you're on autopilot, okay, I'm going to Thanksgiving, but I'm having all these issues around it for whatever reason, and you literally overload yourself to be there, then now you're in survival mode. Yeah. And that's actually asking your limbic system, the physiology of your body, to change. And your now body is tense, and now you're not breathing peacefully, and now you're in a constant state of awareness, and now you're putting yourself into fight or flight. And that's actually has long-term health consequences. Right. And that's, I think, kind of the point of this, is that you can't go on this, you know, constant state of adrenaline just to power through things without there being some physical consequence to your body. Not that it's your fault, but to be aware of it so that you're trying to like not let yourself not overload your plate.
It's it's interesting because like the word that's coming into my mind is stagnant. You know, we were just talking about change and like how I'm constantly changing, but like I feel like a lot of times like you're just in this stagnant state where you're just like dull and sluggish and no activity, you know, and it's like the worst place an ADHD person can be, or at least my ADHD brain can be. It's like in a dull, sluggish state. I hate it. And I don't have the right word yet. Like I know it needs to be, you know, more powerful than probably that word is, but gonna have to keep thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. I'm glad we came back to it because I think there was definitely, I could imagine that many people could identify with this. I mean, I can identify with it, right? And so I imagine there's others that can as well. So I think it's something we can keep coming back to and talk through again.
And just, I think the one thing I would say to like my older self, my younger self,
your younger self,
yeah. Is that this is just because we don't have the right wording for it yet does not mean that there's anything wrong with you. Like if you're in this delusional state, there's nothing wrong with you as who you are fundamentally at the core. You are an incredibly powerful and passionate human, and this physical state does not encompass you, and it does not encompass your potential. It's just a place that you're in right now, and like you will get out of it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love you.
I love you too.
Thanks for talking this through with me today.
Thanks for letting me be all in my delusional state right now. I hate that term. In rung 5. Let's be rung 5.
We'll come up with a better word.
Yeah. I like the idea of places. Because then it's like you're still you. You're just in a different place.
Yeah. I like that. Places.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll try that on.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Well, that's it for today's episode where we went through Your Brain Is Not Broken by Tamara Rosier. We hope it gave you a little more clarity, a little more compassion, and maybe even a few aha moments about your ADHD brain and how it works. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss next week's episode, because we'll be talking about how creating healthy boundaries is so important and also why it's so freaking hard sometimes. But until then, here's to a great end of the week, and remember to stay curious.
And joyful.
And radical acceptance. High kick.